Okay, so today we're going to talk about polynomial division, okay, and synthetic division. So let's go back to elementary and figure out how did we used to do this back when I first learned how to divide, okay? So here I have this 603 divided by 9. Okay, so now that we're in high school though, we do need to kind of make sure we're using the right terms here. Okay, what's going on here? Yeah, what is going on? Let's try that again. Okay, so we used to do division. It was always 603 divided by 9. So first of all, don't forget that this is called your, this is not working. Try a different pen here. So this is called this right here is called your dividend. And if you recall, this is called your divisor. Alright, so you have a dividend and you have your divisor. So, 603 divided by 9. How did I do this? Well, what you would do is you take your divisor and you would try and figure out what times 9 would give you 603. But you don't look at 603 as a whole number. You look at it number by number. So 9 times what would give me 6? Well, that's impossible because 6 is too small. So we moved on and said, what about 60? So 9 times what will give me 60? Okay. So 9 times what will give me 60? If you say 6, then now the next step is to multiply. So 6 times 9 is what? Well, that is 54. And then we're going to subtract. So 60 minus 54 is 6. And then this 3 drops down. And then you do it all over again. So 9 times what will give you 63? And you say 7. 7 times 9 is 63. And then you subtract and you have 0. So there you go. So basically 603 divided by 9 is equal to 67. Or you can consider it this way, 9 times 67 is 603. Okay, let's try one more. So 9,234 divided by 7. So 7 times what will give me 9? Okay, so again, it's not going to be perfect, but I can get it close. So 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract 9 minus 7 is 2. I'm going to drop this 2. That would give me 7 times what would give me 23. Oh, I'm sorry, 22. Well, the closest I can get is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 22 minus 21 is 1. Drop this 3. 7 times what will give me 13? Again, I can get close by 1. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract. 13 minus 7 is 6. Drop that 4. 7 times what is 64? Again, I can get close. I have 9. 9 times 7 is 63. Subtract. 64 minus 3 is 1. And then 7 times what would give me 1? Well, you can't, and you have nothing else to drop. So you probably learned in elementary, maybe put a decimal point here and continue. But we're not going to do that. Basically, you call this your remainder. Okay, you call this your remainder. So what did I figure out? That 9,234 divided by 7 is 1,319 with a remainder of 1. Okay, so the reason I show you that is because we are going to talk about polynomial division. And we're going to use long division to do that. So I'm going to try and convince you that dividing 8 cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8 divided by x minus 2 is the exact same thing that you learned in elementary. So first, let's set up our little house here. Your dividend goes on the inside, so x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8 Your divisor is x minus 2 in this case. So it looks complex, but we're going to treat it exactly the same way. And like we did in elementary, I'm not going to look at this whole polynomial equation right here. I'm only going to look at the front part. Same thing with my divisor. I'm only going to look at the front part. So right now I'm looking at only the x here and only the x cubed. So just like before, I asked myself, x times what will give me x cubed? Well, that would be x squared. Okay, so x times x squared gives me x cubed. So now, just like before I did in the elementary log division, I'm going to multiply. So x squared times, but this time I have to do my whole divisor. So basically it's like distribution, okay? So x squared times x minus 2, you'll get x cubed minus 2x squared. And just like before, you're going to subtract. But when it comes to polynomials, the way you subtract polynomials is basically you're going to change the sign and everything and add. So this was positive, but I want to change it to a negative. This was minus, so I'm going to change this to a plus. And then now, combine like terms. If you notice, the x cubes will cancel. Negative 5x squared plus a 2x squared is a 3x squared. And just like before in elementary, I dropped everything else. And then do it again. Do it again. So x times what will give me 3x squared? Well, that would be a 3x, a positive 3x. Notice I wrote a plus sign. So then do it again. Multiply. 3x times your divisor will give me 3x squared minus 6x. And I want to subtract, but the way I subtract again is changing the sign. So this was positive becomes negative. This was negative becomes positive. Notice that these are going to cancel. And I have a 2x and a 6x. Combined like terms, that'll be 8x plus 8. Notice that I keep dropping. And do it again. X times what will give me 8x? That should be a positive 8. And then now multiply. 8 times x minus 2. So 8 times x minus 2. So that would give me an 8x. And then 8 times negative 2 is a negative 16. And I want to subtract. And again, the way I do that is change the signs. This becomes negative. This becomes positive. These will cancel. 8 plus 16 is 24. Okay, and now you have to ask yourself, x times what will give me 24? Well, here's the thing: you can't lose a variable. Okay, and what I mean by that is an x can never just become a constant. An x squared can never just become an x to the third power can never become an x squared, and so on and so forth. So basically, once you get to the point where there are no more variables that you can match, this is your stopping point. So guess what this is? This is my remainder. This is my remainder. So my final answer is x squared plus 3x plus 8, and then I don't write r 24. What I'm going to do is write my remainder. It's a positive 24 over my divisor, x minus 2. Okay? So again, what did I just figure out? I figured out that x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8 divided by x minus 2 is all this right here. Alright, let's try another one. So I have this time x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2 divided by x minus 2. Again, ask yourself, x times what will give me x cubed? And that would be x squared. Now multiply. That gives me x cubed minus 2x squared. I want to subtract, so I change the signs. Those cancel. This gives me 7x squared minus 7x plus 2. Now, x times what will give me 7x squared? That would be 7x. Multiply. 7x times x minus 2 gives me 7x squared minus 14x. Subtract by changing the signs. Those cancel. Negative 7x and a positive 14x gives me 7x plus 2. Now ask yourself, x times what will give me 7x? And that would be a positive 7. So 7 times x minus 2 is 7x minus 14. Subtract, add, those cancel, this becomes 16. So again, I have a remainder. So my final answer is x squared plus 7x plus 7 with a remainder of 16 divided by x minus 2. Okay, let's try another long division. So this time, look, notice my divisor is 2x minus 1. Okay, so it's getting, my divisor is getting bigger, and that's okay. The process stays the exact same. So you're asking yourself, 2x times what will give me 6x squared? And that would be 3x. Now multiply. That would give me 6x squared minus 3x. Now subtract by changing the signs. Those cancel. Negative 5x plus 3x is 2x plus 9. That drops. Now 2x times what will give me 2x? And that is a positive 1. Now multiply. 1 times 2x is 2x. 1 times 1 is a negative 1. Subtract by changing the signs. So this gives me 10, and then 2x times nothing can give me a 10 because, again, I cannot lose a variable. So my final answer is 3x plus 1 plus a remainder of 10 over 2x minus 1. Okay, let's look at another one. So my dividend here is 3x to the 4th power minus 5x cubed plus 4x minus 4. And then now this time I'm going to divide by x squared minus 3x plus 5. Okay, so this one, notice my divisor is getting bigger, and that's okay. Process stays the same. So x squared times what will give me 3x to the 4th power? And that would be 3x squared. Now I'm going to multiply. So 3x squared times my divisor will give me 3x to the 4th power minus 9x to the 3rd power plus 15x squared. Now I'm going to subtract by changing the signs. This becomes minus, this becomes plus, and this is going to be a minus. Notice these will cancel. Now I'm going to change my color here because I want you to pay very close attention to what's going to happen here. I have a negative 5x cubed and a positive 9x. Well, that's just 4x cubed. And then this is where most students will make their mistake. Notice I have a 4x and I have a negative 15x squared. I cannot combine these because they are not like terms. So what do? Well, I just drop everything down in order. So I'm going to have a negative 15x squared, a positive 4x, and a negative 6. So notice, these do not combine, they just both drop. Now, do it again. X squared times what will give me 4x cubed? Your answer is 4x. Multiply 4x times your divisor. It would be 4x cubed minus 12x squared plus 20x. Subtract by changing the signs. These will cancel. You have a negative 15x squared and a positive 12x squared. That gives me a negative 3x squared. You have a positive 4x and a negative 20x. That gives me a negative 16x. And then, of course, I still have my minus 6. All right. X squared goes into negative 3x squared. How many times? That would be a negative 3. Multiply negative 3 times your divisor will give me a negative 3x squared, a positive 9x, and a negative 15. That's a 5. And now, again, I want to subtract by changing the signs. This is negative becomes positive. This positive becomes negative. This negative becomes positive. Those will cancel. Alright, so the negative 3x squareds cancel. I have a negative 16x and a negative 9x. That gives me a negative 25x. And then I have a negative 6 and a positive 15. That would give me a positive 9. And so then you're asking yourself, x squared times what will give me a negative 25x. Now, remember what I told you. You cannot lose an x. So an x squared cannot become just an x. So this is my remainder. So then my final answer, I'm going to have to kind of make some room here. My final answer is 3x squared plus 4x minus 3, and then it's a minus 25x plus 9 over my divisor of x squared minus 3x plus 5. Okay? Alright, so that was long division. Now, it looks complex, but it's as easy as it was in elementary. Okay, guys? So we're going to talk about something that's usually easier. It's called synthetic division. So the reason it's easier is because it's a division method with literally no variables. Okay, so most students prefer this. However, so here's my warning, guys. Here's my warning. Synthetic division only works with a simple divisor. Okay, and what do I mean by simple divisor is that your divisor is literally just x plus or minus some number. Okay, so like x minus 2, that's fine. But if your divisor was like on our last one, if your divisor was x squared plus 3x minus 2, it will not work. Synthetic division will not work. It has to be a very simple divisor. Okay, once it is, if it is, then you can feel free to use synthetic division. Okay, but if it's not, you have to use long division. That's why I show you long division first, because first of all, it works all the time, and it works with complex problems as well. Okay, so let's talk about the synthetic division. So synthetic division, like I said, has no variables. We're not going to use any variables. We're just going to use numbers. So there's a little setup. Okay, so you have a little box here, and you're going to have a little line. All right. So now inside this box, it's always the opposite of your a. So notice my a here is negative 2. And so then what goes here? It's going to be a positive 2. So again, remember, this is opposite of a. All right? And then what I'm going to write some numbers here, and what numbers go here are my coefficients of my variables. So x cubed, what's the coefficient? The coefficient is 1. X squared, what's the coefficient? The coefficient is 5. X, what's the coefficient? A negative 7. And then I have my constant of 2. Okay, so again, what went up here? These were the coefficients. Remember, coefficients, excuse me, coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables. So I have a 1, a positive 5, a negative 7, and a positive 2. Okay, so this is going to be quick, so you got to pay attention. Alright, so once you have your setup, it's very simple. The first step is to drop the first number down here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this number down here and multiply it times what you have in your box. So I have 1 times 2, which is a 2. And then I'm going to add vertically. So 5 plus 2 is 7. And then do it again. So 2 times 7 is 14. And then add. Negative 7 plus 14 is a positive 7. Again, multiply. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 plus 14 is 16. Alright, so once you're out of numbers, here's what you have. The last number, whatever it is, this is always your remainder. The second to last number is always your constant. The next number is always your x. This number is always your x squared. If you had another number, it would be x cubed. If you had another number, it would be x to the 4th, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you always read it backwards. So again, it's your remainder, your constant, your x, and your x squared. So in our case, the way I read this is, well, here's my answer. I have 1x squared plus a 7x plus a 7 with a remainder of 16 over x minus 2. And there you go. So you see how synthetic division is easier, but again, it only works with simple divisors, okay? So let's try another one. So this time I have x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 10 divided by x plus 2. So I'm going to set up my synthetic division. What goes in the box? The opposite of A. A right now is a positive 2, so I'm going to write a negative 2. And now I'm going to list my coefficients. So I have x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 10. So what's my first coefficient? It's a positive 1. My second coefficient is a negative 1. My third coefficient is a 4. And then I have a constant of negative 10. Okay, so there's my setup. First step, drop the first number, multiply. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Add. Negative 1 plus negative 2 is a negative 3. Multiply. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. Add. 4 plus 6 is a positive 10. Negative 2 times 10 is a negative 20. Add gives me a negative 30. And again, what does this represent? This is my remainder, my constant, my x squared. So what's my final answer? X squared minus 3x plus 10 minus 30 over x plus 2. Okay. You see why most students prefer synthetic division? It's very simple, very easy, but again, only works with the easy problems. Alright, let's try another one. I have x cubed plus x plus 30 divided by x plus 3. Okay, so I'm here in my box. What am I going to write? Opposite of a. In this case, it's going to be a negative 3. Now, this one's a little tricky. I don't know if you noticed, but notice your equation was x cubed, and then it jumps to an x. So what does that mean? That means I'm missing an x squared. So when I write my coefficients, do not just go 1, 1, 30, because remember, they have to be in order. So technically, if I'm missing an x squared, it has a leading coefficient of 0. So this has a leading coefficient of 0. So the way this should be written is 1, 0, 1, 30. So this represents my x cubed, this represents my x squared, this represents my x, and this is my constant. So basically what you're getting out of this one is you must put a 0 for missing variables or constants. So sometimes my constant can be missing as well, and I have to put a 0. I have to put a 0. So the reason I'm telling you you have to is because you could have put 1130, 1130, and you would have got an answer. It just would have been the wrong answer. Okay. So make sure if you're missing a variable in between, you have to put a 0. And you can have 2 zeros, 3 zeros written down, okay? It doesn't matter. Alright, so here we go. Drop the 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. 0 plus negative 3 is negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. 1 plus 9 is a 10. Negative 3 times 10 is a negative 30. 30 plus negative 30 is a 0. What does this mean right here? I have no remainder. I have no remainder. So then what is my final answer? Well, again, if that's my remainder, then this is my constant, this is my x, and this is my x squared. So my answer is x squared minus 3x plus 10. So why do we divide? Why am I showing you how to divide? Guys, just like what we talked about at the very beginning, when you just did simple division, we said 603 divided by 9 is 67. Well, doesn't that also mean that 67 times 9 is 603? That is a factor. So 67 and 9 are factors of 603. Okay? So basically, if you look at all we did, you just figured out that x cubed plus x plus 30 can be factored into x plus 3 and x squared minus 3x plus 10. So you literally just did some factoring. Okay? That's why we learned how to division. Essentially, it's another form, another technique of factoring. All right, that's it for the notes. You now have an assignment. Get to work.